Baseline expectation of the first module is that you coach yourself, that you treat yourself as your first coaching client. And from that, many good things can and will emerge. What I'm aiming to do here, hello everybody, is to describe my own journey from roughly 2 years ago to today, where I'm finally ready to launch my product. And the product I'm launching is designed for people like me. And people like me are those who have a certain amount of experience and life under their belt, but who wish to be able to solidify and codify some of their knowledge and perhaps make a pivot from what they're doing now into coaching. And the interesting thing I've found is that practically everybody, one way or another, is already a coach. They just don't call themselves that. I've come to the conclusion that if you're working with a colleague, if you're bringing on a new apprentice, if you're working in teaching, human resources, supervision, management, sales, retail, you name it, on some level or other, you are coaching others. From the basic microcosmic level of just making sure that people treat you with the respect that you deserve, through to providing guidance to people. Some people might call this guidance sales. Some people might call it persuasion. The truth of the matter is, though, if you're going to get somebody to see things your way, you have to use quite a range of skills, an armory of skills really, that you've learned the hard way in order to get things done. So, my major finding is that we're all coaches, but unfortunately, the coaching industry is dominated by people who seem to have left planet Earth and gone to inhabit some other place. Allow me to explain. There's a lot of borderline pseudo-religion and pseudo-spirituality attached to the coaching market and the field. And I use the word market advisedly because I actually think that a lot of this stuff is about marketing. I think that people who claim that they just want to serve are lying through their teeth. And they may just want to serve, but it doesn't hurt so that they can make a lot of money doing the service. So from my point of view, I went into coaching. I had an ambition to pivot into coaching, and I've undergone this process 3, maybe 4 times now. But each time that I got into trying to work with a course or a program or a book, I found that I couldn't see it through. I couldn't resonate, and the materials didn't resonate with me. I entered into one correspondence course, which promised me a certificate for completing it, but I never completed it. And the reason I never completed it was because actually it was just too easy. And all of the praise I was getting didn't feel correct. I could just knock off an essay in a couple of hours easily, and just drawing from my skills and knowledge. And the feedback would be very promising. But it didn't really resonate with me, and it didn't really make me feel like I'd stretched myself. On another occasion, I signed up for a coaching course, and it wasn't the level of difficulty that was a problem for me. The problem for me on that course was that I didn't appear to share the political views of the people who were marking my papers. I entered into the study with a totally false notion that what they were looking for was my own personal development as one of the credentials for becoming a coach. And they weren't. They were looking for my ability to tell them what they wanted to hear. And often I didn't. And so when the next semester started, miraculously, I was not invented. And so when the next semester arrived, I was miraculously not invited to continue with the study. I smile about it now, but at the time it was terrible. And then I see the massive extravaganzas, the online events, which are totally free. And I really so want to get involved in them, but they just strike me as protracted brainwashing exercises. There's such a feel-good carnival atmosphere about the whole thing, and it's interspersed with very earnest, very experienced, and very articulate coaches trying to persuade me that I can do this. And I'm not sold. They can, if they wish, sell me a structure which they claim will work for me, but I'm not sold. I really don't like the soft soaping, and I really don't like the hard sell. So I think it's only natural that this should happen because the coaching industry, it's a $5 billion industry and it's set to grow. And so then I think to myself, how on earth can I get a piece of the action? And the way I decided to go about getting a piece of the action is to seek out similar people to myself, similarly minded people who wish to seek and not just be spoon-fed information. I would suggest that a truly effective coach will be somebody who's lived experience and who can transfer their lived experience to similarly minded people, much the same way that an alcoholic or a recovering alcoholic or a recovering person with alcoholism or addictions, in a similar way that that person will best respond to somebody who has experienced those issues. I think that coaching shares similarities there. I think that if you consider who you are and what skills and knowledge and attributes you can bring to the party, that's 2/3 of the way towards working out what kind of coach you can be. And getting back to the $5 billion a year industry, how is that made up? Well, we like to think that the $5 billion a year industry is constituted by everyday people, coaching everyday people for everyday reasons, but it isn't. The real weight of the $5 billion is in the loaded, systemic, global, corporate, marketed, international nature of coaching, in particular, the knowledge industry. Consider paying $3,000+. That's a conservative. Actually, that's an estimate based on an average. You can pay more, pay less. But let's consider that you pay $3,000 average to be part of a program which lasts 3 to 6 months. And in that 3 to 6 months program, there's going to be a lot of justifying going on. There's going to be a lot of padding. There's going to be a lot of backslapping. There's going to be a lot of cajoling, because at the end of the day, you're paying the bill. Well, if you consider thousands of people signing up for $3,000 modules that take 3 to 6 months to do on a rolling basis, and then consider there are at least a top 20 coaching institutions out there, you can start to see how much money is being generated on a rolling basis by the knowledge industry, not by actual coaching. The other way that the coaching industry can create a false narrative about how much money there is in coaching is because many of the ultra successful coaches reserve their services for people who are prepared to pay very large amounts. And when they're not reserving their skills for that small market of people who pay large amounts, they are trawling the net, looking for lots of small fish who are prepared to pay a smaller amount, shall we say, on a subscription basis. So, for example, if you manage to be sold on a program and they tell you that it's only $100, What they don't explain to you is that it's only $100 for 12 months. So only $100 magically transforms into $1,200. These are the tricks and the fly ways that the coaching industry has managed to notch up such a high revenue. So at the very back end of the scale and the spectrum is a person like yourself or myself who would just like to get into coaching because we're called to the notion of being able to assist, help, and support people. I don't make any argument against transitioning from, say, engineering into coaching, or from computer science or web design into coaching. I really don't. The skills, knowledge, and experience that we bring and the personalities that we bring, that's our stuff. But I can say hand on heart that I have devoted at least the last 30, probably close to 40 years working with people, literally, in a supportive, educative, or coaching capacity. And so I'm not just pulling coaching out of my backside and saying, hey, let's pivot to this because I think it'll be a nice way to earn a crust. Having said that, I do believe it will be a nice way to earn a crust. How? Well, the way it will be a nice way to earn a crust, in my view, is that if I'm talking specifically to a person such as yourself, who may be a person such as myself even 4 or 5 years ago, then there's a high chance that there are thousands, if not millions of people who are like you and I. And so if I drill down into that narrow niche or that narrow market and I provide something of value to that narrow niche or that narrow market or that specific individual customer, I'm working on the basis that if what I have to share is useful to you, then it will be useful to others. And if it's useful to you and to others, eventually I will be able to sell it in some shape, form, or other. But I'm not going to do that now. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to offer value by promoting the first module for free. I decided that I would produce the first module of the 8-module pack for free. And the reasons for that are several. Obviously, it's an attention-seeking device, and it's a great way to open dialogues and to encourage interaction. But fundamentally, I wanted to test my authority. I wanted to be able to put something in front of people which, hand on heart, I could stand behind. And so I put a lot of work into the book. And the first module is for anybody who has considered coaching or is interested in personal development and wants to see how they can marry those things together in a painless, rapid, and effective manner. I don't want to drag anybody through a 3 or 4 month course. I don't want to charge anybody $3,000 to learn how to coach. I don't want to speak in jargon, esoteric, highfalutin language. I don't want to impress you with brilliant lighting, great teeth, and a makeup department, because I don't have any of those things. What I do want to do is I want to speak real talk to real people. I want to expand my mission to assist people to find their purpose and to be able to express their purpose. And I find that coaching is a great way to be able to do that. By spreading coaching culture, I feel that I can assist people to empower themselves. I've reached a stage in my life where I wanted something more. I also wanted something that I could invest my time and effort into over the next 10 years or so. As I rapidly approach and pass retirement age, I don't want to give up work. What I'd like to do is I'd like to build an infrastructure, an online infrastructure, and a knowledge academy, shall we call it, knowledge industry outlet that could leave a legacy for me and can assist people worldwide. That's a lot to be digesting, isn't it? I brought my previous skills and knowledge as an educator into this process because I've spent a goodly time working out how to develop resources, working out how to develop learning materials that speak to the learner. My philosophy about learning and teaching is that it's an assessment by outcome process. And so 5 people can look at one piece of material and theoretically get 5 different stages or levels of outcome from what they're learning. And this was a challenge because what I'm trying to do is bring a focus into the learning materials and knowledge and experience into the learning materials, but also to make them as accessible as possible, but as wide-ranging as possible in order to appeal to different tastes, different needs, and different experiences. Bottom line, I have no desire to talk down to people. Having said that, I do want to be able to communicate with people, and so I put a lot of work into establishing the level of the language, the baseline expectations of the learning, and the depths to which I take the research and the knowledge. By the end of Module 1, it is my hope that a casual reader would be able to A, say whether they want to be a coach or not, B, see how their existing knowledge and skills can qualify them to say they are a coach, and C, have much more of a focused view about who it is they can help and what attributes they can bring to the helping. And at the end of the module, one will be in a qualified position, really, to decide whether they want to go forward and actually invest in terms of cash into the next module. The first module is designed essentially to break the ice. Or as I say in the module, I've broken the sod, you can plant your seed there. What I'm aiming to do is to give you a primer and an overview of some of the basic things you might need to know in order to set up as a coach, personal development advisor or guide. So with that end in mind, I broke down the module into areas of find your niche, work out your coaching personality, locate who you are and how it works in the market. And then I provided a whole bunch of templates which can be used by the coach in order to coach themselves and to find out things about themselves, or can be printed out and used as resources by the same person when they decide to become a coach. One of my major findings in this particular journey of personal development is that if you want to be a coach, you have to become your first client, which incidentally is the title of Module 1. Your first client, your first coaching client is you. You are your first coaching client. And the reason I say that is because if you just go blundering in to coaching forum, uninformed, or simply taking what you know already, unless you are gifted, and let's face it, very few of us are, unless you are gifted with extreme empathy, brilliant listening skills, and almost psychological knowledge, you're not going to do a very good job. My view, for what it's worth, is that if you can drill down into who you are, it A, can help you to locate who your prime clients might be, and B, provides you with the means to express your mission statement or your niche statement. I spent literally years floundering around, grasping and groping for my own coaching identity. And what I'm trying to do here in this module is to save you literally years of grasping and groping around. It's not a silver bullet. It's not the elixir of life, the fountain of youth, or anything like that. I really can't stand that kind of just do it school of coaching, which in my opinion is a way to exploit the naive and the desperate. I'm not offering a silver bullet here. I'm not offering a quick fix. However, I am, and I believe this is the case, offering you a way to overcome many of the inquiries and time-wasting, elements. I'll say that again. I'm not seeking to offer a silver bullet here. What I'm offering you in this module is the means to save yourself time and money by assisting you to locate and describe your own coaching personality. I would suggest that even a lot of the so-called certified courses out there don't fulfill this brief. You can wander in to a course and you can wander out again, no more knowledgeable about who you are as a coach than when you went in. Sure, you might learn techniques and you might do a lot of reading and you might be referred to lots of articles by people in qualified, internationally recognized publications, etc. And you might write lots of essays or do lots of online forums and all that side of things. But there might be a single quality outcome that is missing from the process. A certificate, a piece of paper, something in a frame on a wall is not the same as knowing who you are and what kind of coach you are and who your market is. So often in courses which are quite academic and esoteric, they miss out the marketing part. And what I've found is, in principle, the marketing advice of finding your avatar, your client, your niche, is excellent personal development advice too. So you may be detecting quite a lot of suspicion emanating from me about the coaching industry in general. And I don't want to come across as a Grinch or anything like that. I've read my fair share of personal development literature. I've consumed my fair share of YouTube videos, and I've been a keen advocate and follower of personal development for many years, which is why I graduated into wanting to become part of the industry. But the objection I have to a lot of the industry is how glitzy, glamorous, and brightly lit it is. In my view, it promotes a almost religious zealotry about itself to people. And I don't like that kind of thing. I don't like being sold the world only to have an atlas delivered. And the other thing that really irks me about the coaching industry and the personal development industry is the idea that you can have a quick fix. Now, this is ironic because what I'm doing is promoting a book which one could claim is a quick fix. But that's not literally true, because what I'm promoting in this free module is a lot of work and a lot of research and a lot of soul searching condensed and distilled into roughly 50 pages. And in those 50 pages, there are snippets of advice. You're spoken to in a very realistic manner, and there are templates and broadsheets that you can use for your own practice. The point I'm making about the coaching industry per se is that when we watch somebody on YouTube and they tell us that we can do this, that, and the other, it's a little bit akin to watching someone like Michael Jordan explain to us that we can reach the hoop. And we can't, because we haven't put in the work that Michael Jordan's put in. We're not the same size. We don't have the same attributes, focus, etc. The point I'm making is we can't all be Michael Jordan, but a lot of the coaching industry sells this view that we can. And this, in my view, is dishonest. So how do we overcome this and yet still be part of the coaching industry? Well, we overcome this and still be part of the coaching industry by establishing our own breakout room. And the breakout room that we're establishing here is that real talk for real people. You don't have to be one of the superstars in order to encourage people, assist and support people to live lives better, or indeed live life better for yourself. There's too much glamour and glitz involved, and the bottom line is that you have to be prepared to do some work. It's not like dot the dot or join the dots. It's not like colouring in. It's not like paint by numbers. Consider this. Buying painting by numbers kit is not going to turn you into Michelangelo. However, you can take the first steps towards becoming like Michelangelo by being prepared to learn basics. And as you learn the basics, you will be in a better position to be able to cultivate and develop your own personality as a coach. And I think that that's very important, because in a world and an industry in which fakery does seem to be quite a feature, surely developing your own skills, knowledge, attributes, identity, which are integrated, surely having that as your base mark is a much better way to start. And the reason that's a better way to start, I would suggest, is because you need to build your own practice on solid foundations. Don't try to be something you're not, because you will build your castle on the sand. Take the notion of certification. Take the notion of doing a course, paying good money for the course, spending good time on the course in order to be able to waive a certificate at the end, which often is a primary motivation for many people who get involved in higher study. You've got to separate the issues. You've got apples and oranges here, really. On one level, you've got wanting to know how to coach. On another level, you've got wanting to be able to show people you know how to coach. Taking a course and paying good money for it is a great way to be able to show people you know how to coach. But is it really? It shows people that you have a certificate and that you spent a certain amount of time studying the craft. But is it a fast track? Does it paper over cracks? Take somebody who is in their 40s, who has experienced working with troubled youth, and who has operated as a volunteer, and who has been a problem solver, a guide, a mentor, and an inspiration for several generations of young people who otherwise might have gone off the rails. Are you truly telling me that if I were to put that person next to somebody who is, say, 24, no disrespect to you if you're 24, but who has gone through school, completed college, and is in the first year maybe of their first or second job? Is it truly the case that the 24-year-old with 6 months of study and a certificate on his wall is going to have better attributes, skills, knowledge, and experience than somebody who has worked in the other field? One of the problems we face is that lack of access to academic credentials encourages people to think that they are worthless. So if you don't have a certificate on your wall, you are encouraged to think that somehow you lack qualities that a person with a certificate on the wall has. And this is simply not true. My market, my client group, my people are those who have lived life experience and who want to take what they know and take it to a higher plane and to use it to help other people. And who knows, perhaps start a business and establish a new persona, pivot into a new industry or identity for themselves. Nobody is disbarred. Nobody is blocked from this process. This is a truly democratic system in which everybody is invited to do one piece of work first. And that one piece of work in this one free module is for you to evaluate, analyze, and work out if coaching is for you. If coaching as you understand it is not for you, the very worst you can come away with is some way of seeing how your skills and knowledge can be used in a coaching manner in the work that you do. And you may go back to your own work environment the following day with a finer appreciation of the raft of skills and knowledge that you take to your role. And what's wrong with that? For those people who wish to pivot into coaching, this module will be very useful because it will give you insights into some of the legal and liability elements. It will give you resources and templates that you can use with a first client. If you're one of those people who would wish to volunteer and help somebody off the bat, having worked out who it is that is your best group, you can use those templates and you can use those resources to assist you through the process. And as you go forward through the other modules, there are more increasingly intricate and interesting and useful templates available too. I'll just add a postscript as well. I'll say that again. I will just add a postscript to my previous remark. I'll say that again. I'll just add a postscript. One more time. I'll just add a postscript to my previous remarks about getting certificates and certification. I'm not trying to run down other people's coaching courses in order to sell you mine. There might be 100 people out there, and of that 100 people, 97 of them have a deep desire to get certification and to take a course in an approved place with a known name. I'm not speaking to those 97 people. I'm speaking to the other three. I'm speaking to the other three who may have experienced challenges taking academic courses in the past, who may need different kinds of guidance in order to overcome the challenges they face as adult learners. Because that's my field, that's where my specialism lies. So for those three people, I'm not saying don't get a certificate. What I'm saying is don't allow the presence of the certificate to overcome all other considerations. Because the real aim of the game, in my view, is for a person to study and to emerge from the study with knowledge, skills, and experience to be a coach. So, if I may, consider certificated courses if you so desire, 97 of you. And 3 of you who don't, let's continue this dialogue. If you really want a certificate, you 3 people, I can put one together for you, if that's what you really want. But it won't be worth the paper it's written on unless you do the work. And the work that I'm asking you to do is to coach yourself first, be your first client, and become informed, objectively speaking, and have a certain sense of authority about the decisions you're making. Rather than have somebody recommend me or my work to anybody on the basis of there's a certificate at the end of it, I want the people that work with my modules to be able to say, hand on heart, that they know for sure that what they're bringing to the party is useful, credible, and has, shall we say, real value to the people that they work with. You can read my module, you can digest all of the information, and you can go back to your usual work tomorrow. There are no strings attached. But I do promise, if you do read the module, when you go back to your work tomorrow, you will go back slightly sharper, more focused, and better informed than when you started to read the module. For those who prefer to have more audio-visual support, this is really the first of a series of long forms that I'm going to put together. I have been marketing the module on YouTube, and I've been running separate pages and talking about things. But I think that for the purposes of study, I need to sit down like this and talk a little bit more seriously about what's in the modules and what's in it for you as a reader or as a participant. So, fellow seeker, have a look at the module. You can download it for free if you so desire. I can promise you, you will not be wasting your time. If you would be so kind, I will attach a questionnaire and send it to you after you've downloaded the book, and ask you if you can pass back your observations about the module to me so that I can continue to refine and make this better. It is my aim to create a hermetically sealed, perfectly integrated series of modules that are going to leave the user with 0 doubts about their credibility, ability, qualifications, and authority as a personal development guide. And I use the term personal development guide because I don't really like the term life coach. It sounds naff to me. Life coach, what's that? A personal development guide is somebody who can walk alongside you. A personal development guide is somebody who can offer you and elicit and pull out information from you rather than somebody who's going to finger wave and say, thou shalt not do this or that or the other. There's room for that in the market. I'm not opposed to a lot of the stuff that I see. I like NLP, for example. I like the idea of pattern interrupt. I'm not opposed to pattern interrupt. In fact, my approach could be considered as a huge pattern interrupt. Because what I want to do is I want to blot the copybook, and I want to make an impact on the coaching knowledge industry by standing out for the right reasons, rather than just being part of the algorithmic global collective. Have a think. If you like what you're hearing and you like what you see, download the module. The worst thing that can happen if you do so is that I'm going to send you an email with a questionnaire in it asking you what you thought. And the best thing that can happen if you download it is that you will learn about coaching. You will learn how good you are as a coach. You will learn about how to drill down and focus your specific characteristics into coaching. And you will learn that sometimes you can download a free book and it can be a no strings attached, honourable interaction. Now I've got some coffee on, so I'm just going to pop over and turn the pot off, otherwise it's going to go everywhere. I'll be back with you in a second. I guess we're getting to the final word component, aren't we? We're getting to that time now. So a final word. What I'd like for people to gain from the free module is to be able to look back at it and say to themselves, holy mackerel, I've been a coach all this time. I've been coaching people for much of my working life in one capacity or another. I recall working with somebody recently in a workshop who was facing redundancy and who was distraught about losing a large slice of her identity because she'd been in that work for a long, long time. And she didn't know where to take her life going forward because she felt that if she lost her working employment identity, that the rug was going to be pulled out from beneath her. She felt that life as she knew it was pretty much finito, which was fascinating because she then let slip during the course of the workshops that she'd been coaching women's soccer for the previous 30 years and that she'd been an integral in a management position, taking young talent forward and working with them, often young talent that had great demands and challenges in their own lives. And she'd seen generations of young women go from being borderline wastrels into competent, professional, self-assured sportswomen. And I just found that fascinating. Can you truly tell me that this person was not a born coach? You see, the problem is that part of the role of the knowledge industry, the coaching industry, has been to try and impress on people that coaching is some kind of special woo-woo type process. And that in order to be a coach, you've got to have great hair, great teeth, great skin. You've got to have a room full of people. You've got to have one of those cool mics things, all of that stuff. Big backdrop. You've got to have an inspirational backstory. You've got to have suffered, etc. They try to promote the notion of coaching as something that you have to be a superhero to do. In my view, to be a good coach, you have to be an anti-hero. And let's face it, most of us are. I've known so many people in my professional life who have either needed coaching, including myself, or who have been incredibly gifted coaches themselves. I've also met a number of people in my professional life who have been broken, living lives of quiet desperation, in dismay, unable to get out of their own way. The kinds of people that you sometimes would just like to shake them by the shoulder and say, come on, please. That's not what coaching is, by the way. Coaching is a much more skilled process than that. However, what I'm saying is that the sum total of humanity out there, we all have needs, we all have challenges, and ideally, the best kind of person to help is somebody who has empathy, who has insight, and has lived experience. You might not wish to become a coach, a personal development guide, but you might go back into your work tomorrow with an enhanced regard for what it is that you've been bringing to the party all these years. It may be that from reading the module, it will send you in a different direction and encourage you to study or develop your skills or your professional character in other ways. This is called a win-win. We're looking at win-wins. We're not looking at a situation whereby I sell you a lemon and you get sucked into some kind of weird money-making vortex. That's really not the purpose of this exercise. I hold ethical standards, integrity, and being true to your own self in very high regard. I'm a former philosophy student, and I'm also a former kid raised in religious background. So you can probably work out, reading between the lines, what I do and what I don't like. So if you like real talk for real people, and you like information which is broken down into manageable sections, and which speaks to you from an informed, caring, and yet no punches pulled place, then have a look at Module 1. See what you think. And if you do have good thoughts about it, please allow me to send you a questionnaire, and then you can fill it out and I can continue to refine my craft and I can continue to create something which is deliverable. Is that a deal? I hope it is. Check it out and get back to me in the fullness of time. Go well, fellow seeker. And remember, whatever it is you dare to do or dream, begin it now. Baseline expectation of the first module is that you coach yourself, that you treat yourself as your first coaching client. And from that, many good things can and will emerge.